fans, brews, and Broncos news. Good evening, Broncos country. Welcome to yet another edition of Bourbon, Broncos, and No BS. After this week's game, I'm sure everyone's like, I don't even want to talk about it. Those guys aren't even going to do a show because they don't want to talk about it. Wrong. We're here. We're going to talk about it. It's going to hurt. But I think by the end of the conversation, by the way, Spotty and I were talking before the show, we should be feeling a whole lot better. So we got David. We got the newly, I'm going to say it, Spotty, newly married Mr. Spotty. Okay. Mr. to you now. And yeah, so congrats to Spotty on the big wedding day, man. I'm sorry you had to follow it up with that Broncos game, but because of that, let's start with you, man. Opening thoughts. Broncos lost, but lots of good things to look at, man. What you got?
You know what I really wanted to say on Sunday afternoon, probably get us kicked off of YouTube or all the other different places that we have our podcast. So I won't say that. And, you know, it took, you know, what do they say? Cooler heads prevail. And, you know, you took the day, come back on Monday, listen to the pregame and kind of looking at how the internet was saying, and quite honestly, it's not a bad loss. Like the Denver Broncos won 59 minutes and 54 seconds of that football game. And I'm not really sure if we could say that about any of the other matchups besides maybe the win last year against the Chiefs, where we kind of dominated. I don't know how long it's really been since it felt like that we've done that to a division rival, and the fact that it was the Chiefs kind of makes it better. It's not the ending that we wanted. It's not the storybook ending and the start of our streak, but you know, it's definitely what David's favorite word is, show some growth for this Broncos team.
Absolutely. And David, I'll pass it to you. Jimmy says it. There's no second place trophies, man. But what do you think?
Jimmy, I'm with you. I get it. I understand it. You lose, you lose. And when it goes on the win-loss record, which is all that matters at the end of the year, I get, well, no, that's not true, because that's not this Broncos team. I mean, that Jimmy is where I'm with you and where I'm against you. A loss is a loss, but this Broncos team, again, and we've been saying it all season, and it's still true, you don't want to measure this season by wins and losses necessarily. It was fun to talk about playoffs for those couple of weeks. And guys, because all of the teams behind us in the wild card lost this week, like we're still in the race. Like it's still a possibility. We're not in terrible shape as far as it could be. But even if the Broncos don't make the playoffs this year, it's not about the wins and losses, right? And that's where I think you can make the argument that at least this one, as close as you can get to a moral victory, this was it, right? Because you saw your rookie quarterback go out there at Arrowhead, the place where is going to be year in and year out the worst place for him to play in this division, and the worst game on the schedule every year because of the crowd they pack in there. And he went out there and played. Like he stood in there, he delivered some really good balls. You know, he played against an incredibly good defense. And man, that's one thing we're not, we talked about it, I'm sure, but the Chiefs have a great defense, right? And so you hasn't really seen Bo Nix go out there and play against a good defense that way this year so far. And so, yeah, there's so much to be encouraged about, just about his future, I think, to take away from this game, even if you didn't, as Jimmy, to your point, Jimmy, you walk away with a loss on this one.
Yeah. Well, you look at the numbers there, and again, there's no asterisk next to the number that says they lost, but they tried really hard,
Right.
That's not a thing.
Right.
I get it. David, just to kind of rephrase what you said, the goal this year was to determine whether Bo Nix was our quarterback or not. Having a winning record on top of that would have been awesome. We said at the beginning, like, if we could get a winning record somehow, holy crap, that'd be great. But here we are talking about, yeah, we should, get a winning record. It's within the realm of possibility, and we're still on the hunt for that P word, right? But if you look at the numbers there, Bo Nix outplayed Patrick Mahomes. So I know they're going to say Patrick Mahomes took, round one. In my book, no. And in fact, I mean, I'm not ready to buy a Bo Nix jersey, guys, but I am ready enough to say, I believe. Okay, it's official. The sign has been made and updated.
Boy.
I believe. Because what you said, David, was spot on. we saw him play in that incredibly hostile environment, and he handled himself like a pro player. He didn't bat an eye. Even in that last drive, how many big plays did he come up with on that last drive?
Jared said it. Isn't that what he wanted a couple weeks ago? So he wanted to see that 2-minute offense.
Yep.
And damn it, it was that
5-minute offense, which I think is harder.
Still ran it.
Honestly,
it is because you're trying to kill that much clock.
Yeah, you're trying to balance that run and that pass. But that, when you're trying to run that ball effectively and the defense knows that you're going to try and run the ball, you might get stuck in some 3rd and long situations in that game script. And man, he did it, and he executed those downs, and they weren't passes that were short of the sticks that managed, a great play got him there. He was passing beyond the sticks. That throw to Cortland Sutton on 3rd down with that crossing route, Jimmy, you were there. That was nails. That was absolutely what you have to see from your quarterback in that high leverage situation at the end of the game there. And he was absolutely lights out.
Now, not to take away anything from Court on that play, but that's also a huge bow play as well. If you look, play broke down. That he had 3 defenders in his face. That was supposed to be a quick dump off to Williams, I think it was. Williams or Estime, whoever was in the backfield. And that broke down real quick. So with people in Bo's face, he's still got that throw off. I mean, again, pressure anyone? And look how he handled it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Comments here. Boom. Jimmy, this issue I have is, did you see videos of the extra point? Spotty. What's your take on that, buddy?
That's one of my biggest beefs about it all. And like when you have somebody like Pat McAfee who points it out to you, you're in trouble. Yeah, saw the extra point. And if you guys didn't see the extra points like Jimmy did, the Chiefs were reloading their players on their right side, our left side of the line, almost at every point during that game, knowing that there was a glaring hole in the Broncos line, and it's that Forsyth. I don't know if he doesn't know that he could snap his head up to see the after the ball snap, but there's not one point at all that you see him not snap his head up at the right time. And of course, Pat McAfee pointed out that he had really bad technique as well. So 100%. That's a coaching win for the Chiefs and a very glaring coaching hole for the Denver Broncos, in the fact that we didn't recognize at the right time that we had a player who was a sieve on our line, and the Chiefs did what they were supposed to do. They saw it and they went after it, and that's the reason they won the game. 100%. They've got one of the better coaching staffs in the NFL, beyond the fact they've got Reed and Spagnuolo, who made it very difficult for the Broncos in the second half. But if I feel like every special teams coordinator, comes from them, or even assistant coordinator comes from them. So they won the coaching battle. They won where it mattered most.
I don't think you're going to see us make that mistake again anytime soon, though.
Boy, yeah, this is all I have to say about that is, yeah, it's a coaching problem. You should have fixed it before this game. It was a problem before this game. It cost you a game. Fix it now. That's all I have to say.
But 10 games though, was it?
I mean, it never cost you a block kick until now, I don't think. And in the highest leverage situation of the entire season, a better coach than you, saw it and figured it out. And that's the way that went.
It's just, it almost too was like the perfect situation, right? Because I think, it was your brother who was like, if we don't get that to the right hash to kick, is it blocked? Statistically says no.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So even yes, like that's it. Just we didn't have that situation where we're kicking from the right hash and all that. Like, it's the perfect storm. It's really easy to see why everybody is saying, "Oh, Chiefs black magic," out there. So
it seems like it. I mean, look, and I'm not going to go into the ref conversation, but when you take into account the ref stuff, and then you take into account Bo's first fumble off a snap in 37 games, okay, that kind of stuff happened all on the same, that block kick. I mean, it's just like one thing after the other. And yeah, it's like, is Taylor Swift up there mumbling, witchcraft, say, like, putting hexes out on the team? Like, what is going on? Because week in and week out, whoever's playing the Chiefs just seems to have the absolute worst of luck across the board. But here's so Audric Estime, one of the quotes, so they got some quotes from the players after the game. If the team can take this mentality, this attitude, and move it forward, guys, this is going to be scary. Audric Estime said this game is going to make me into a monster. Did they just unleash a beast? This is something that could push them to the next level. If they're saying, hey, we're going to face them again in our home, we got a few games between now and then to get us to that next level where we can put them away handily. At least that, either that, or they can say, throw their hands there and say, well, nothing we do works. We're just going to try again next year, but I don't think that's going to be the case with this coaching staff. I don't think that's the vision they're going to have. And I think the players have bought in enough to the system to believe that looking down the stretch here, they have a lot going for them.
We've been talking about their schedule a lot, right? And if you are that playoff team, like now you've got the adversity. Now you've got that game on your back that you should have won, that game that nobody was expecting you to win, and you probably played better than the other team, but you still lose at the end. So what's that do to you now? Do you go out there and rattle off 4 wins in a row because you're pissed and you want to show everybody that was an aberration, this is the team we actually are? Or, do you fold a little bit? Do you say that's your season? That was as much emotional run up as we could handle, and with that letdown, now we're cooked.
Mm-hmm. I'm feeling like we're going to have, it's kind of like how when we played the Ravens, they were coming off a tough division loss. Tough division loss right before they played us. Mm-hmm. I honestly, I could see that, don't get me wrong. I know the Falcons are actually in the exact same situation when it comes this week, a tough division loss, but we're the home body. We're the home team when it comes to this. So honestly, I think we're going to find us in the right spot. Now, one thing I want to touch on about the Kansas City thing, and this is probably something that everybody's not thinking about as much too. I don't think the next time that we play Kansas City is going to have the same kind of spice. Right, like I think I think it's really going to be next year when we get that, this is the time, because by the time we're looking at Kansas City week 17, not the last
18,
week of the year, week 18 this year. I mean, at that point, Kansas City may not have anything to play for, right? It doesn't have the same, it's not the Pat Mahomes versus Bo Nix kind of game. So I think when it truly comes to us getting our, get back on them, it may not be until whenever we play them next year.
Right. The only thing I can think of is that game could mean a lot for the Broncos and not so much for the Chiefs. Now, if they have their first round bye, they might actually play their starters at least a good bit, and now are they going to go out there with the same intensity? Maybe not, because again, they have the first round bye locked up by that point. But let's say something crazy happens and teams take a page from our playbook after this game and the Chiefs rattle off a few losses and, the Ravens or whoever catches them, and somehow, there could be a situation where the Chiefs, do sit all their players if they don't have that first round bye. I think that's a long shot. But man, I didn't even think about that, Ray. You're exactly right, but to say that, or to see that we went into Arrowhead the way that we did, especially coming off of a loss that we had against the Ravens, and the way the defense just held there, because what did we see against the Ravens game? The defense did a very good job in the first half. And then after halftime, the defense was just like, we're done. We're gassed. We're tired. And that was not the case this week. I mean, Chiefs had the ball to start second half and they stopped them. Spotty.
Our second halves have left a lot to behold the last couple of weeks. I mean, I get what you're saying, but the offense also didn't do anything in the second half against the Ravens as well. And similarly, the offense didn't do anything in the second half against the Chiefs. I know we've talked about this, and we don't really know how much of the X and the O's are really changed at halftime, or you're implementing new things that you really have. But it does feel like Spagnuolo changed his game plan for the Broncos offense and Bo in the second half, and a lot of it had to do with blitzes up in and specifically in the A and the B gaps, which we talked a lot about last year, is what kind of derailed Russell Wilson a lot of time. When you get pressure straight up the middle, it gives you the least amount of time to actually get things done. So I think that's one thing that needs to be looked at. Our second halves, for whatever reason, this whole entire year just haven't been great. And it's only fun. It's funny I even say that because I think we have a negative point differential for the first quarter, but every other quarter for the Broncos that we're positive, but it's not by a lot. So I think that's one thing that I'm looking at, that I'm seeing, that we need to continue to work on, because we know that when it comes to the potential P word, not scoring any points in the second half is just not going to get you there. We're going to face a couple potential playoff teams over the next 4 to 5 weeks, and those teams are going to score. Our defense is good, but we know that it's almost impossible to stop an NFL offense from scoring any points. So if we're not game planning or changing our style, or helping our defense out by keeping them on the sidelines for a little while, we're going to run into that trouble.
Ken here says it perfectly. I'll get your take on this, David. Broncos defense was built to play or stop the Chiefs, not the Ravens. They try to beat the Ravens playing a style of defense they don't normally play, and I agree with that. What did you see between the Ravens game and the Chiefs game on the defensive side of the ball?
I mean, it did just feel like against the Chiefs, they were really playing what they know. I don't know. That Ravens game, I can't put my finger on it. I don't really know, but man, it just felt like they were off. Right? Like they were just out of position in weird ways that they haven't been all season, especially in the passing game. It felt like an unsound defense for a good portion of that game, and it's just not what they are. So them trying to play something else that they're not really normally playing would seem to explain that, if that's the case. But yeah, it really does feel like, you were talking, Kevin, about other teams maybe being able to replicate what the Broncos did on defense against the Chiefs. I'm not sure that there's any plan that the Broncos executed better than other teams schematically. What the Broncos did was get pressure with 4 consistently and drop 7. And this Chiefs receiving core is not talented enough to beat your guys in coverage that way. And so, yeah, Patrick Mahomes can dance around every once in a while and deliver a play that, nobody else in the NFL can do. That's just the way it is. But if you can get him to do that like twice in a game instead of like 5 or 6 times, you end up with a Chiefs team that scores 16 points at the end of the day. And that's what the Broncos can do. They got pressure with 4, especially with Nick Bonito out there just wrecking the game once again. That's really what they were able to do against these Chiefs. And that's why I guess they're kind of built to play the Chiefs, but that style of defense will also get you wins against most teams in the NFL, right?
Third downs. That was the one sticking point that everybody talked about during the whole entire game, is that the Chiefs have dominated third down. That being said, even they've been dominating third down with that distance. It's like their normal distance is like 3 and 4, is like 4 and 5 yards to go. And during our game, I'm pretty sure it's set at 7.9 for a good chunk of the game. And like to what David said, preventing Pat Mahomes from doing the things that he wanted to do. There's always going to be some breakdowns. It's really hard to prevent Mahomes from scurrying upfield and doing the stupid things that he does with the ball. Sometimes it's damn near impossible, because we've seen no one been able to do it in however many years that he's been in the league. So if we can continue to dominate the third downs, that's something that you can point to say, if you keep them at third and longer, that's longer than 5 and 6, and then you're able to just prevent that quarterback from scurrying upfield and do what you need to do, get the pressure from Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper and Malcolm Roach, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you mentioned third downs. I want to give props to the Broncos on third down on the other side of the ball, because man alive, have we seen that come alive in the last month, right? The Broncos were hideous on third down on offense for a good chunk of the early part of the season. Right. And anything. And the last 4 weeks, they have really picked it up. Even in games they have lost, even in that Ravens game, their percentage has improved dramatically. And then to go out there and show against this Chiefs defense with Spagnuolo, the offense didn't play well in the second half as well as in the first half for sure. But even with that second half, they ended the day really well on third down, and we've got to give them, I think, a little bit of attention for that.
Well, you look at the calls where the plays were calling on third down too. I mean, third down and a 32-yard bomb down to Sutton in the end zone.
Yeah.
That's not something you would have seen from how many years have we said the Broncos offense is boring? It's boring. It's predictable, right? But who expected a big bomb down the field to Cortland Sutton on 3rd and 2? Who expected the other on the other, fourth down, the last pass to Court right there? Who expected that third down to be a pass? We're looking to run down the clock and not give Mahomes any time on the clock, but we call a pass play. We're showing confidence. We're showing excitement. You can't really say we're predictable. We're opening the playbook more, and it's beautiful to see.
And people are catching balls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. That's
right in the breadbasket.
Like when the ball hits you in the hands.
Yeah, man.
That's what it should look like.
Really, that's like, how many times have you seen that ball from Court this year or from Bo this year? And it's like perfect, right? It looks good on the way. It looks like the receiver is running to get it in stride, and then just a little Jordan Humphrey or Troy Franklin, it just bounces off their chest or goes right through those 3 feet wide arms. And this time it was Court. And Court's going to make that catch. Court had a drop in this game that we can talk about if we want to, I guess. But Court made that catch look easy, and then he did it, right?
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's catching it right now. And I beyond anything, and this is just something I kind of typed into the message board, to all the guys, Bo has played turnover-free football, and I'm not even going to count the freaking interception against the Ravens because it went off the hands of little Jordan Humphrey. So what we're asking him, because we know that to truly be successful with the type of team that we have, we can't be turning the football over. And he's been doing that. I think in the last 5 games, technically his 2 interceptions, you can probably chalk one of those off there. So 1 interception, 0 fumbles. Can you ask any more from a rookie quarterback to keep you in the game?
Could you ask much more from any quarterback? I mean,
right.
Really, like 1 interception in 5 games, no fumbles. If he goes another 37 games before he fumbles again, I'm going to be happy.
Oh, man, 100%. Because you think even Josh Allen, who's seen as probably the perennial heir to, be the rival to Pat Mahomes, the man turns the ball over a lot.
He loves to turn the ball over.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Yeah. Now, here's the name we haven't mentioned yet that definitely deserves some props. This guy just, if it weren't for him, the Broncos, I don't know where the Broncos would be. And that guy's Jared.
Yes.
Jared is the reason the Broncos are doing so well this year, I think. That's my thought.
He's back. He was on a boat. He's on dry land now, and
I'm just saying, did you recognize it? The first part of the season was rough. Jared comes back. All of a sudden, Broncos are like, we can hang with the Chiefs. We got this.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Welcome, Jared. We are wrapping up the first half here. I'm going to throw this thought over to you. I was just about to say, in all honesty, one name we haven't mentioned yet today that definitely deserves a lot of credit, Devon Vele. Another big performance from him. I mean, 4 for 4. He's not getting major yardage, but he's clutch. And I think it's
catching
close. He's
everything
catching consistently.
He is catching things. I'm like, yep, there was an incompletion. And
I mean, can we say he's improving? He's been like that since week 1.
David, David, can you go back to like preseason for us and remind everybody who've been on the Devon Vele train?
That's
since
right.
week one?
It was the Davids. That's right. The two of us.
That's right.
Yeah,
Indeed,
and
sirs.
forever. Yep. Yeah. Spotty and we were all over the Vele train. You guys were. It's fine. We don't have to talk about the doubts, but yeah, it speaks for
We'll
itself.
take
The record
wins.
speaks for itself.
I love it.
So I'm glad you didn't say it, David. And please don't. Or Spotty, don't say it. You know what ticks me off, and I know you do it on purpose. But I'm absolutely a Devontae Vele stan right now. I love everything I'm seeing from him. He is just out there catching everything. He's getting open. He's making catches like crazy. Can't believe he hasn't been more involved earlier on the season. Obviously, he's still decently involved. I don't know what's slowing him up other than the fact that he's a rookie. I think really he's our number 2, right? If you were to ask me right now, he's our number 2 wide receiver. Like, that's it.
Simple as
Well,
yeah.
Then this is something that begs to need to be talked about before we get to the half part. Who's our number 1 running back?
I love that you brought this up, Spotty. Absolutely. No. And we had to talk about it, right? Javonte Williams didn't get much run yesterday, did he, guys?
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
In 2 passes.
Yeah. Because Audric Estime was kicking ass, Jared. That's why.
3.8 yards per carry. I mean, that's
all right. I mean, it's against
not
the Chiefs
amazing,
defense.
but
Yeah, it's not amazing, but man, you saw it. It felt like you saw a guy getting tough yards. It felt like you saw a guy have a little bit better vision. You felt like the offense had the ability to stay balanced running behind Estime. And yeah, you had that Chiefs defense that has Chris Jones on it, right? But still,
they're top 10 for rush defense. So it's not like they might even be top 5 for rush defense, because I feel like their pass defense has been ranked fairly low. So for the Chiefs to be ranked the number 5 defense in the NFL, and 3.8 yards a carry is not anything to bat an eye at, but 7.6 yards on 2 downs is a pretty hefty amount.
Yeah. But here's my question though: is like, why? Right. Okay. So yes, he had a couple big. He gave him 1 chance in that game. I'm a huge Devontae Williams fan. I think he is absolutely great. I think he is our number 1 running back, and he needs to be a number 1 back. I did not understand it. Now, don't get me wrong. I was focused on other parts of the game as the game was going on, but I just don't understand, looking back at this, how Javonte only gets one carry. And I don't know the snap break. I'm not pulling that up. I don't know how many snaps he got total. If he was in there for more passing down stuff. But still, like, yeah, he had 2 receptions for 6 yards. So he was in there for a couple of those passing downs. I don't know. I think Javonte Williams is still our clear number 1. I don't think that game did not win me over on Estime.
I'm gonna say this, and we're nearing the second half of the year right now. So I also think that's the reason why we're seeing more forced balls. I'm gonna say forced balls to Franklin and Vele instead of Humphreys. I think at this point we might be potentially over the next couple of weeks, if Audric is the one who's dominating the snaps, we're potentially looking at the last games of Javonte's career as a Denver Bronco.
Why would you say that to me? I'm already in a rough mood after the Sunday loss. Like,
I just pulled, I don't have the breakdown of passing versus running plays, but he was only out there for 17 out of 69
total snaps.
Yeah.
That's not a good
17
breakdown.
snaps. No.
I mean, the hard part is Audric and Javonte are probably the exact same running back. Like, you could probably.
I just got here and I already want to leave. Don't.
I'm not saying he's any Tim Patrick Jr. or anything, but
if I'm giving a Madden ratings,
yeesh.
Javonte is like an 82 and Estime is like a 79. Like, don't sit here and say that they're the same running back. Like, Javonte is a much better running back than.
Yeah, you're right. Audric has less fumbles.
That's true.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, 3 points in Madden. That's your scale.
That's your scale.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not giving him a 99. Like I know the capabilities of our running backs, right?
82 to 79, though. That's your he's clearly
an 82 and a 79. You're not be like, yeah, start the 79 dude for all the runs. Only give him 17 snaps.
Hey guys, I love it. We're gonna move on into halftime. These guys need to grab their Uncrustables and orange slices, cool down for a bit as they get ready for the second half. The only thing that will make you feel like a champion, guys, kind of like the Broncos played on Sunday, Breckenridge Distillery Champion Blend. Make sure you go pick some up of this stuff. If you're not a whiskey fan, don't worry. They got their vodka as well. But go check that out. Local liquor store near you. Also, guys, don't forget about all the other content we have here. Post-game podcast, pre-game podcasts, all on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcasts. We also got this show every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. It's Bourbon Broncos, no BS. And don't forget about game day. 1 hour before kickoff, we got our tailgate talk as well as our halftime show. Guys, I know what you do when halftime starts. Everyone does it, okay? You're doing this. You do this, okay? Because you want to see what other people are saying about the game. I know. That's okay. We're talking about it. So come on over, join the conversation with us, and share your thoughts in the first half of the game. Guys, this week it is what it is, and we'd all love to be 6-4 right now, but we're not. We're 5-5, and the Broncos have a choice in front of them. Like I said before, they can either get down on themselves or they can get to work and say we still have a chance to make a name for ourselves this season. But that starts with the Falcons at home, and I think David, it was you, Dave, Spotty said earlier, they're coming off a tough loss themselves, so they're not just going to roll over for the Broncos. But Jared, we'll start with you, man. Thoughts on this upcoming game?
Yeah, first, I just want to point out that Javonte and Estimate both have 2 fumbles, so that stat was wrong. We got to be statistically correct on the show.
We do. It's the no BS show. Yeah.
No, I think this is a good opportunity to show what we have. I know I missed the first half. We just did halftime, but the really cool thing about that game that showed me, and I've been asking for it for a couple of weeks on the pregame podcast. I've been asking for it on the show, is a chance for Bo to show that he can put together a drive to win a game, and he did that. He did that in the last game, and not only that, but he took 5 minutes off the clock to give us a chance to actually win that game, and that shows the progression of a young quarterback. I think that he's really stepping into his role in this offense, and I think this is a good chance to have a good bounce back game to get back above 500 going forward. And I don't know if you saw the post game interview. I don't know who it was with, but they were asking like how he felt about the game. Obviously, are you pissed about this? He's like, look, this is the NFL. If you're pissed about this game right now, you're in the wrong place. We're gonna look at the film. We're gonna study, and we're gonna go forward. We still think we're a playoff team, and I love that mentality for the Broncos. And this is a good game to get back on track with against the Falcons.
Jared, would you say you believe? I'm not asking if you're ready to buy a jersey. But do you believe?
I believe. Oh yeah. I actually, the Kansas City game is the game that sold me on. We finally found our quarterback after how many quarterback carousel memes did we had to see to finally get our quarterback, and that's it.
Don't count. You don't have enough fingers, Spotty. Let's see. Angelo, how you doing? What in the British? Excuse me, sir. More Broncos win, please. Is Jared wearing on his head? It's not a puffball, which means it's an improvement. That's all I can say, Angelo. Okay. Speaking of team puffball, Gary, how you doing, man? Glad to see you here.
A big mile high salute to Angelo and Jerry and all the other members of Team Puffball out there watching. Kev Dan, back to you.
Well, Spotty, what do you think? I mean, you look at what the Broncos did this last week against the Chiefs. Is there really any concern that we can handle anything that the Falcons can throw our way?
Oh, the thing about the Falcons is they're really good at one thing, and that's probably offense. To spoil, all the information you're going to hear from us all the time, but their defense is terrible. It's pretty horrid. Matter of fact, it's wild to even think to say that this might be one of the worst defenses we've played since Carolina. Like, have you guys even looked at where the defensive rankings for all the teams that we've played so far this year?
Kev Dan, You just said you couldn't count the number of quarterbacks on two hands. You don't have enough fingers, right? I do have enough fingers on two hands to count how many sacks the Falcons have this year.
Ooh.
It's 9. It's 9, guys.
Okay, so
maybe won a game. Got it.
Oh, you already know how it goes. They probably had 3 in one game and like a couple with 0. So, if we're going to talk about anything, it's probably Kirk Cousins, and he's not exactly someone who's going to sprint down the field for 15-yard first downs on third down. Just saying.
Probably not.
I don't want to call it remarkable because he's coming off an Achilles injury, but Kirk Cousins cannot move. It's like Aaron Rodgers is back and can move a little bit. Kirk Cousins cannot move in the pocket right now. If you get pressure on him, he's gonna fold like 37-year-old Peyton Manning, guys. It's gonna be that kind of game for this Broncos defense. So yeah, if you let him deal from the pocket, sit back and deal from the pocket, he'll still do it. But like the matchup,
they got some dangerous weapons, though.
Yeah,
it can't be understated. They have some dangerous weapons. They probably are still going to be without Drake London, though.
Ooh. But even if Drake London does play, though, this may be the best wide receiver matchup we played all season. Like as far as weapons, the wide receiver weapons. Now, again, Kirk Cousins not being able to get out of the pocket, I think we're going to be able to scheme up against it. But I can't think of we've always had at least one guy that we need to stop, but we haven't had anybody that's like as good as that wide receiving core.
I can't remember if the Bucks had Chris Evans or Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
I
thought they had them both.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't see that game. I wasn't here yet.
No.
But
you missed a good one. That was a good one.
But I think it's a similar style. I think that you could say that Tampa and the Falcons are a similar team. As a matter of fact, I think between those two teams, they averaged like 35 and 40 points against each other during this year. So if there was a game that Broncos country needs to look at and the Broncos need to, the way they execute, it needs to be that game. It needs to be how we played against Tampa. Tampa's defense didn't scream good, and they weren't at that time. And though what everybody's going to talk about is we've got an old friendly friend that's coming back to play against us in that game. So that's definitely something that's going to be. He might be someone who's very inspired to play well.
Guys, speaking of him really quickly, because I do miss him, and we missed him on Sunday. We did not have any interceptions on Patrick Mahomes for the first time in a long time. But again, Justin Simmons still picked Mahomes off this year, so he's still good. But it's going to be interesting to see him come back. I mean, what do you expect from him on the defense side of the ball? I mean, again, we know what he's capable of. He's a threat, but is there anyone else but him that we should really worry about?
Yeah, their safety group is probably the best in the NFL.
Okay.
Which is odd considering how everything else
Bates
was terrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that secondary is not terrible. I can't remember their cornerback's name, but they have a really good cornerback
AJ
too.
Terrell.
That's it. Thank you, Spotty. But they're being hung out to dry by this complete lack of a pass rush. Even the best secondary in the NFL can't hold up for 5 seconds every single play. And I don't know, it feels like a day where Bo is going to be able to pick them apart because he's just going to have time. Yeah, Justin Simmons might get his. He might. He's good. And
he might.
Playing in front of that home crowd. Kevin, are you gonna cheer if he gets an interception?
I'm not gonna cheer, but I'm not gonna boo. I'll be like, good for him. Pat on the back. I don't hate you. Now if he gets like 2 or 3, yeah, game on. Like dude, go away. But if he gets 1, like, okay, then you got one against your former team and no hard feelings, right? I do like this. We didn't need Simmons on Sunday. We had that game. Simmons got an interception. His team still lost. I'm just saying, if he was with the Broncos and got us an interception on Sunday, we might have pushed it over the edge. Anyway, we're not talking about the Chiefs anymore.
I will say this. I don't know if there's a plan, but normally with players like that, especially someone that's as well revered as he is in Broncos country, I'm surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of like, hey, thank you for everything, Justin, right? Kind of like as he comes out, and I feel like he's going to get a huge round of applause from the crowd. Like he's still loved in Broncos country. He's a Bronco through and through, and the way he went out wasn't terrible. It wasn't like this whole it sucks that it had to happen, and it did. But yeah, we still love him in Broncos country, and it sucks to see him playing for the other team. And the other thing too is, remember, Bo Nix is a rookie. He's never played with Justin Simmons, so I don't know if the guys on the sideline like, just don't throw his way, man. Just like
just don't.
Just don't throw it the other way, because he's a guy that can be a game changer, and he has been for us for so long.
Angelo, I won't. I like Justin. I'll cheer for him any Sunday except for when he plays Denver. When he plays Denver, I hope he stubs his toe and gets diarrhea. Nothing season ending. Look, I appreciate the honesty, man. I can't fault you on that. Cannot fault you. Angelo, comment of the night right there.
I love it.
Thank you, buddy.
Remember Lamar Jackson running into the halftime, before halftime, running into that locker room?
Running in the locker room, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have noticed the Broncos have stopped wearing the white pants for a while after that really bad shot of Bo Nix, which was the most unfortunate thing to see. Look, guys, I'm feeling really positive about this. I think the Broncos, if they handle, ball safety, ball security, everything like they've been doing, this is something that could be a really good, not just a bounce back, but kind of a statement game too. Like saying, not just beat them, but beat them handily. Make the fourth quarter garbage time, and then just take care of business. So I'm just not worried about it, but I don't want to overlook this at the same time, because if they go out there playing flat, if they play down to the Falcons level, this game could get ugly. And I just don't know if we could expect, and I'm not talking so much about the defense, but more so like the offense playing down. They're not the juggernauts like the Chiefs, so.
But it's still a playoff team. Like,
right.
Out of the next couple of weeks, minus the Raiders, we've seen a couple of playoff teams. Yeah. So it's how do we compare against them, right? It shouldn't be how we compare against the Raiders and the Colts of the world. It should be how do we fare against the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Falcons, and that more than anything is kind of the litmus test, right? It tells us where we really should be at.
Mm-hmm. And I'm ready to kind of just write off the Ravens game. Like, man, it was a bad day. Yeah. Like, but
teams have bad days.
I don't know if it was necessarily an indicator of where this team is at. Like, is that to say that if we faced the Ravens again in the playoffs in a magic scenario, I think we'd beat them then? No, probably not. I don't think so. But I feel like in a rematch against the Ravens, we don't lose 41-10. Right. That's really all I'm coming at with that. And I feel like, we've been talking about it in the group chat. We're going to be in every game for the rest of this season, every single game. I feel like I get where you're coming from, Kev Dan, but I don't see a big offensive letdown game coming.
No, and it's just more of a concern than anything. Not a serious concern, but like they better not. Sorry, Jared.
No, we've had two bad day games, and that was the Ravens and the Chargers. Yeah, I mean, those were just both games that were like, what are we doing? Like, this just doesn't look like. And both, and I'd like to, take the Chargers as like it was still earlier season.
No,
we're still getting our stuff together, trying to figure out. Yeah, no Pat Surtain. We were trying to figure out ourselves, and our identity. And I think we have it. I mean, even after a loss, like you always say, there's no moral victories in a loss, but I think there is one here. And you got that team together, and you got that. You guys said this already.
Yeah, literally this. Basically, yeah, right. Like, I love you so much.
I have a short attention. I have a short memory. You can repeat it.
So
I forget.
I don't know. I think the team's on the right track, and looking at the post game interviews, looking at some of the guys, the way that they talk to each other after the game, and you could just tell that there's something in this locker room that they actually are good believers in this team, and they think that they can stand up against literally anybody, and we should too. Because we saw it on Sunday. We can stand up against, like you said, Spotty, we can stand up against the Kansas City Chiefs, the Ravens, if we want to. And this is the good litmus test. This is the test. They're 6-4 right now. They're not we talk about how terrible their defense is, but they are 6-4. They're putting up a lot of offensive points. We can go out there and beat this team. We're back at 6-5 and looking at back in the playoff race again. And That's a lot to say for a team that everybody wrote off at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wrote off. They didn't even consider it. They didn't even write the name down Broncos on any list to begin with. Like
5.5. What's that number, guys?
That's the wins.
That's the wins. And the Broncos have the potential to, that mean the Broncos should have had it already. Like we already know that. So I just think that if you take a look at the schedule and you see that, with a successful game against the Falcons and then a successful game the week after that against one of those terrible teams, the Broncos have a chance to rattle off some wins. And, I know I told a couple of weeks ago, one of my last shows is that I was like, in a perfect world being 2-1, the Broncos are in a good spot after these last 3 games. Well, we know that we at least have to be 1-2. So this is, we're not going to say it's the game, a make or break game, because there are other games on the schedule. But by winning this game, we put ourselves in such a much better spot, and that if there is a potential letdown game later in the season, that won't hurt us as bad as, say, losing to the Patriots on Christmas Eve.
Why
Look,
let's
think about it this way, guys. This time ago, 2 years ago, Broncos weren't even in the, I mean, like, can we get 5 wins this season?
We were in the middle of a win streak.
No, 2 years ago.
Wow,
2 years ago. So 2 years ago, we were like, not even like, we're just like, Broncos are playing for fun at this point. We're so far out. Last year, after the Miami loss, Jared, 70-20, do you remember that?
Why?
You remember, Jared?
Because I missed you making that face whenever I brought it up. But then we had that 5-game win streak, and we're like, oh, like we're back in it, like cautiously, like what's going on? But here we're like, hey, this team has confidence. We're starting to see leadership. We're starting to see consistency. We're starting to see them open up that playbook, get a little more creative, take chances, be aggressive. And we're like looking down the stretch saying, wow, this is like a legit, like we could be talking about a playoff berth here if they do their job over the next couple of weeks. And that's this is a position we haven't been in since Peyton Manning,
Well, and that, to your point, Spotty, when you say get a little help, they got, thankfully, a little help because the Colts, the Bengals lost this week. And now two of your games left are against the Bengals and the Colts, the 2 teams that are probably going to be the closest to you in these wild card standings at the end of the season. So you still have your own destiny in your hands. Go out there and take care of business against those teams and against the Browns and see where the chips fall at the end of the season. And if you don't make it, you did your best. But, it would have been nice to have the cushion from this game, but you're not in the worst position,
Get out of my head,
and
David.
I won't, Spotty. We've got this David on David connection that I really enjoy.
I want to ask you guys. I heard this question asked on the fan, and I want to get your guys' take. For a team that's being built up from the ground zero like this team is suffering this kind of loss necessary for them to experience that, to develop and really kind of grow together, or is it really not a big deal?
But it goes back to what we were. Go ahead, Jared.
That's what the Ravens game was. They need to experience a tough loss, not a loss.
This was a heartbreaking loss.
Well, this was a loss. Yeah. But again, I wouldn't say it was necessary, because what it did for us as the fans is it showed us the tight-knit group that they have. We imagined it, right? We want it to be true. We want them to be looking out for each other, right? We talk about it all the time, but what we really saw was how they reacted to it. And that, for me, was more important, is to see how close they are and how much they want to work together and work as a team and work for each other more than anything. I don't think they needed to experience it to be there, but we got to see it. That's the difference.
I like that.
And we talked about it earlier, right? Like, it's more about, well, all right. So, I mean, stick with me here, right? Like, okay. Yeah, stick with me, Jared. Are you with me? You with me?
We'll see.
Okay. All right. I mean, really, it's more about getting in and seeing your young quarterback progress, right? Bo has his first 300-yard game, like Angelo says. Are you continuing to watch your quarterback win in high leverage moments? Are you going out there and seeing, Jared, you said it, these game-winning drives? Are you seeing in a quarterback put your team in a position to win a game at the end of a game, even if you're not necessarily, it's a young team, it's a developing team, like you guys were saying. Are they taking the steps?
Right.
Are they taking those steps? And that's, I still think 8 or 9 wins is the most realistic end of the season, guys. But are you seeing them? I mean, what if you beat the Chiefs at the end of the year? Like, does it matter at the end, win-loss wise, if the Chiefs are playing their starters at the end of the year? How are you feeling about that, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, I think it would have been more of a growing for them to make that field goal, right? I think because of what Bo did, and you cannot undersell how great that last final drive was. Like the third down conversions, the putting the ball where it needs to be, the getting the drive, taking 5 minutes off the clock to make sure that you held on to, that time management piece. I mean, I think that was probably some of the best offensive football we've seen, and to be able to put us into that position, and we know it now. We see it. It would have been nice to have finished that game out and come out and be like, look, he could put together a game-winning drive, but now we know it. Right? Did we need it? Yes, it would have been nice, but everybody knows it now, and it's not a what if or can he? It's a he can, and now we just need to build on it.
Yeah, I like
it's going to be kind of crazy to say because how good Jaden Daniels has been playing, but Bo's kind of already entered in the conversation of Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
And with some of the competition that Jaden Daniels has left in this year, I believe Jaden right now has about 200 yards on Bo passing and about 150 rushing, which what does that really mean anything? Because Bo actually ends up having more touchdowns. It's a potential that we're talking in 2 weeks, 3 weeks here that, Bo's on par with what we see as the best rookie quarterback. Now, everybody's talking about Jaden Daniels because of the Hail Mary against the Bears, which, I mean, we can all say that was just it's kind of like the field goal blocked by the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Like it's a coaching mistake, more than anything, because you have players out of position. So it's kind of wild to even think that. I mean, we're saying that everybody's saying, oh look, he's already got a better season than Elway. That's not saying a whole lot, but I think comparing him in this new age of quarterbacks to the best rookies, the second overall pick, considering their grades going into April and what everybody thought, I mean you got to take that as a little bit of confidence too. I don't think Bo needs any additional things to give him some swagger, but I think it's nice to show that is his growth, because I mean, how many games into the year till he had his first touchdown?
Well, and man, I want to go on a little bit of a rant here, and it's about coaching staffs, right? Guys, like, we're looking at what Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears are doing right now. And it is an absolute disaster. Like, Caleb Williams is the level of prospect where putting him with a Shane Waldron type offensive coordinator is basically malpractice. And and you've got Matt Eberflus, the defensive coach. You've got a lame duck coach. And you've got Chicago going into another situation after drafting a rookie quarterback with a lame duck coach, having learned nothing, and going in with a coach that they're saying, this is not the coach who we're going to keep long-term. If this quarterback doesn't work out for a season, we're going to go with the quarterback because that's the investment we've made. And so now we're in a position where next year we're probably going to have to hire another head coach, an offensive head coach, who is going to have to start over with our big name prospect from scratch. And this is how quarterbacks get ruined. This is exactly the way quarterbacks get ruined. And boy, you know what? We can still talk about the Broncos' wisdom in trading a first round and a second round pick for Sean Payton. I get it. But at least the plan here is A to B to C, right? You get an offensive head coach who is not going to be hired away because he has a brilliant season, because he's already your head coach. He's not the offensive coordinator who's shown his genius and now he's going to get hired away. That coaching continuity is going to be there when you do draft your young quarterback. Now you did it. And you can question the wisdom of the coach. You can question the wisdom of the quarterback that you picked. But if it works, at least your process was good the entire way, right? At least you did the right things in the right steps, instead of looking at the situation the Chicago Bears are looking at with a generational prospect that you might ruin because you couldn't figure out the coaching.
Yep.
And on that too, about the quarterbacks too. Oh yeah, sure.
Stop.
I mean, talk about the Bears for 5 minutes. So what are we gonna? But talking about, back to your point, Spotty, I think we have all these quarterbacks that we have to compare them to the new age quarterbacks, right? New age rookie quarterbacks. And really, obviously right now we're comparing him to James Daniels because he's being successful. But in the past, like, how many rookie quarterbacks are this far along this short of a season, right? If you look back on the quarterbacks the last 5 years, first round draft picks, there's not a lot of quarterbacks who are this far along, making minimal mistakes. He hasn't thrown an interception in a couple games, right? Like little stuff, at least none that were his fault. And ultimately, what you're coming down to is this guy has went from the first couple games of the season where we're like, yeah, he's going to need some time, to we think he's there, and it's going to be small mistakes like we saw against Kansas City. Like, yes, there were some times I was like, what are you doing, Bo? Right? Like running backwards for 15 yards, right? Like, okay, dude, like that's again, rookie mistake. And we still have another whole season of him to make these rookie mistakes to learn from and figure out. And we are so much further along than I think we ever expected to be, or any rookie quarterback coming in the league could be, really, ultimately.
You know, just to one more point to what you're saying, Jared, it's hard to make a comparison with Bo and new age quarterbacks because the vast majority of them have been drafted in the top 5, right? So do you compare a prospect who's drafted outside of the top 10 to someone who's supposed to be number 1 or 2, right? Number 1 or 2 is what kind of David said. That means that you're a generational talent. And I mean, but again, David's correct in the fact that, you know, we have some continuity, and everybody knows I'm not a huge Sean Payton fan, but what he's showing, what he's showing right now is that he was right in saying that I can make this guy fit into my system. And I'm not going to come get there just yet, but it's probably the closest thing is, you know, what San Fran has done with Brock Purdy, right? It's not like Brock Purdy blew the top off of anybody when it came to draft day, but they put him in a situation and in a coaching scheme where maybe everybody can be successful. I don't actually believe that's true, because Jimmy Garoppolo still wasn't that successful. He was just a winner. So, you know, it just shows that putting the right person in the right place, potentially with the right coach for long enough, will give you the right results.
I love this, guys.
Yeah.
We're talking about all the right things. You know, if you had asked me at the beginning of the season, or just told me like, hey, mid-season or by week 10, you're going to be talking about minimal mistakes, constant growth, seeing the field, making his reads, opening up the playbook, expanding the boundaries week by week, I'd say that's exactly what I want to be talking about at this point. So I'm more than happy, you know. Could he be further along? Maybe, but I can't be upset with what we've seen.
Worse though.
And David,
say that.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, and David, to your point, this is exactly right. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due in terms of, here's the plan. Here's how you do it correctly to avoid that crap. We're going to do it this way. People are going to question us. That's fine. But if we can make this work, we are going to be set for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, before we get to some closing thoughts, really quickly, don't forget about our pregame podcast later this week, as well as our pregame show 1 hour before kickoff and our live halftime hash show as well. Also, make sure you're following us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to your podcast. And check out Breckenridge Distillery. That way you can go get some championship blend, whiskey or vodka, before this next game day and feel like a champion, just like the Broncos. Okay, guys, here we are, week 10 or week 11. Falcons coming up. Broncos ready to bounce back and stay on the positive side on the win-loss record. David, closing thoughts, good sir.
Okay, boy, you look back at where this Broncos season started and where it could have been right now, right? And you have to feel so good just looking at it and saying it's not even close to the worst case scenario right now, right? And for a team that has seen the worst case scenario play out with all of the major moves that it has made over the since Peyton Manning retired, essentially, it's so refreshing to see and hope generating, because it's like, man, it feels like the process is good. It feels like the things that you really needed, the crucial decisions that you made, are panning out, and you're on a trajectory right now where even if you don't make the playoffs this year, you are in a position to compete, where if you have even solid drafts, you are in a position to compete in the AFC against even the biggest teams, against even the Buffaloes and the Kansas Cities of the conference. It's such an interesting position to be in, and it feels like a privilege based on where we thought we were going to be at the start of the season.
Yeah. Jared, first off, happy Veterans Day, good sir.
Thank you.
Especially your service this year, being gone and sacrificing your time away from the show. I know that was the biggest and hardest challenge for you. So, yeah, David, that's actually exactly what Jared does at sea. That is his
9 months. 9 months of that.
9 months of that. So,
sometimes they were whales. It was super cool, I bet. Yeah.
Down
harpooning.
Jared,
man, what you got?
So if the season ended right now, we are the 7th seed. I am going to say that I think we put ourselves in the driver's seat by not just winning this game, but playing as consistently as we played against Kansas City, and just continuing to grow on that. And if we just continue to grow with this young, talented roster that we have, we're talking about 3 rookies. I mean, Estime, Vele, and Bo, right? And all these guys, just Estime is a rookie, right?
Yes, he is. Good guy.
Yeah. So all these guys that we're talking about being like some of our bigger playmakers, especially in that game, and we have so much room to improve and work on that. And we have so many chances. And like I said, I've said it again multiple times so far. I'm going to say it again, that the grouping of the Broncos right now in that locker room is tight. And I love to see it, and I want to see it keep going forward. And I really do have it. A lot of people are going to write us off and think that we're not going to finish off with the 7th, with the wild card or whatever. But we can put ourselves in the driver's seat by winning this game and continuing to play Broncos football the way that we have, at least we did last week. Forget about the Ravens game, but really for the last couple of weeks, I think we have a chance, and I think it really is going to show and pay dividends in the long run. And I'm just super happy that we are where we are right now, based on what we thought we were going to be.
I love it. Spotty?
I feel like we're coming on and we're talking about, okay, hey, the next 3 games, hey, this, if we have this kind of result over the next few games, I want to sit and I want to be very comfortable and say, hey, the Broncos, could potentially make that P word. But, again, I want to say these next 2 weeks are going to really matter for us too, right? So, are we going to be 5-7 or are we going to be 7-5? If we're 7-5, we're in the driver's seat. Okay.
Yep.
If we're 7-5, we're in the driver's seat. But I'm not fully comfortable. I'm kind of with David in the fact that, like, if we get 8 or 9 wins, I know it's not the playoffs, but that is a big moral victory for a team that should not be here. They should not be playing as well as they have. Bo Nix should not be one of the quote unquote top rookie quarterbacks right now, but there is what seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel, right? And the light at the end of the tunnel may be next season, but still it's something that as a Broncos fan, it's like, okay, we can actually look towards the future and feel comfortable in buying, tickets to the next season's games, or where when we talk about, man, in the draft, we just need a position player instead of, well, we need about 10 different things. Let's hold our breath. Like we're actually can pinpoint players that we think that really helped out this team, and that's a nice feeling. It's not just we're quarterback away anymore. So I want to see these next couple weeks before I get on the ship when we're talking about playoffs and AFC championships. But I think we have a good chance to really get there. And I feel comfortable that we will give ourselves a chance to win those games.
Yeah, man. In 7-5 is very believable, right? And as much as I want to think about the December games and even that January game against the Chiefs, it starts with this week. And Angela, I like this comment. Pull up again. That missed field goal sucked. Talking to your dad about it helped. It was such a close game. Bo looking good and was awesome. It's nice to know we can compete. At the end of the day, it feels good to know we can build or we can compete in such an early build. And this is exactly what you guys are saying, exactly what I keep harping on. And Jimmy, I'm almost agreeing with you here. The positives, but they agree. It has to translate on the field. For me this season, it's still not completely about the wins and losses. We've got to see, what is the extent Bo can grow to this year before he goes in the offseason to really, plug away at that. But getting to 9 wins is just the icing on the cake. And then if you get into, dare I say it, a playoff game, right? Then we haven't had a Bourbon Broncos and OBF show, guys, covering a playoff game.
Never happened.
Like when that happens, if not this year, I can start seeing like next year, there's that conversation, right? So Spotty, the light is at the end of the tunnel, and it might be a long tunnel, but we finally see a light. And we haven't had that. David, I know you got to squint a little bit, but even then, we're not trying to force us. Oh, like, yeah, I'm saying Hackett will do well because I want him to do well, and he better do well because I'm tired of us sucking, right? So I'm going to root him on because I don't really see it, but let's hope it happens. This is like, okay, we're actually seeing it. It's actually happening. We're getting the wins. We're hanging with these teams. Just can't be too disappointed, even though the game didn't end the way we wanted. So, guys, nothing else for me. Check out all our other content. Thanks for tuning in. Again, this show is for you guys. As long as you guys keep coming back, we'll keep doing it. Year 9 going strong. I think we'll be going really strong into year 10 as well. David, Jared, Spotty, guys, again, thank you very much for helping out as well. Anthony, Ken, Jimmy, all you guys, and Gary as well. Appreciate your tuning in tonight. Nothing else for me to say, guys, other than end as we always do on a very strong. Go Broncos!
Go Broncos!
We'll see you later.
Do what I like, yeah, I do what I like, yeah, I do what I like. Sip and go, sip is right, and I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, yeah, I go with the flow, cause I know I'm the show, in the zone, here I go.